Hey everyone, welcome to a new video, welcome to my channel. My name is Micah and in today's video we are going to be talking about my MAC eyeshadow palette and what I have in here. If you don't know, I'm currently doing August palette extravaganza here on my channel, meaning I'm talking about only eyeshadow palettes pretty much for the entire month of August, and I thought it would be fun to show you what I keep as my MAC singles. Now this palette has been one of my go-to palettes for years now, and I actually don't own any other MAC eyeshadows apart from what's in here. And I know that by now there are a lot more affordable options on the market and a lot of people don't rave about these anymore, but I still really like these shades, so I wanted to show you what I have in here. As you can see, I have a bit of space left. I have a little bit of a wish list as well, so I'll tell you about that before the end of this video as well. So let's just get to it. So I transferred all of my MAC singles into a large Z palette earlier this year. The reason for that was before I was housing these in a double MAC palette, and while I like that, it's very aesthetically pleasing, I just didn't find it very handy to use. It was very big and bulky, so it took up a lot of space in my makeup collection, but it also meant that there was this like divider between the shades, and I just wasn't really going for that. So that's why I decided to transfer them all into this larger Z palette and sort of lay them out a little bit differently. I have all of my highlight shades over here, then I have lid shades, like crease, transitions are over here, and then like deeper darkening shades and more colorful shades are in the two bottom rows. And let's just get to the wish list straight away because I don't have those shades, and then we can keep the rest of the video nice and focused. So I have space for like 3 more shadows, and I'm definitely planning on buying some when I travel to New York later this year. So I think I want to get some more greens because I like greens a lot at the moment. They do a couple that are called like Plumage and Steamy, which seem to be like bluish, greenish teals, which I feel is still missing from this palette. So I definitely am looking to get some more colorful shades. And then for the third shade, I'm not entirely sure, maybe some just olive, because I think that like a khaki green, like a little bit darker than these two, can work really well. But this for a very long time was like my OG go-to palette, and there are still a lot of go-to shades for me in here. I know that when I reach for this palette, I will always get like a perfect look for me because I definitely curated this over the years. There are definitely a couple of very infamous shades in here, and as you can also see, I have quite a few dips, especially in these lid shades, and also over here in a couple of like the lighter shades. I have quite big dips. Let's start with the first row at the top, which as I mentioned are all like highlighter, more neutral shades. And definitely when I first started out in makeup, I was very afraid of going too dark, which is why I have so many midtones and like lighter colors in here, because I just don't really like super dark eyeshadow on myself. So this for me gives me the dimension I need to make a complete look. So the first shade I have in here is Vanilla, and Vanilla is a shade I can't even swatch for you because if I were to do that, you wouldn't really be able to see very much. I used to be all about that matte brow bone highlight, and this is just one that was perfect for that. Everybody was going on about Vanilla at the time. This isn't really a shade I reach for a whole lot anymore, so this is definitely something that I feel I could do without right now, but when I first started out, it was a perfect one. One of my favorite inner corner highlight shades is Dazzlelight, and this is like Vanilla, but with a bit of shine to it. So there we have Dazzlelight. It's not super reflective. It's not like metallic like we have nowadays, but it's definitely more of like a subtle shimmer. Very pretty as an inner corner highlight, but it can also work all over the lid. The next shade I have in here is Nylon, and Nylon definitely had a bit of a moment. Everybody was after this shade at a certain point, and I just had it lying about. And this is like the more golden toned version of Dazzlelight. So Dazzlelight is a bit softer. Nylon has a little bit more shine, but I feel they are quite comparable actually. This very busted up shade is one that I never hear anybody talking about. This is Arena, and this is one of my OG favorites. I remember when I started out in makeup, I went to the counter and the lady put this on me. It is a sort of like peachy shimmer. But this I used to wear all over the lid. I will show you what I would put in the crease, but this used to be an all over lid shade for me. It can also work really well as an inner corner highlight, but as a lid shade, it really adds a little bit of shine and glow, like a highlighter for your lids. That's pretty much what Arena is. And then another OG MAC shade. This is Naked Lunch, and it's very similar to the other shades I've just shown you, but this is more of a pink. So we have like a champagne, a gold, a peach, and then a pink. But Naked Lunch is definitely a little bit more of just a wash of shimmer. Like it's right here. Like again, for that very sort of wet look, it's very, very perfect. And then I have a shade right next to it, which looks very similar to it, and that is called Jest. And Jest is a shade that I didn't have in my MAC palette for a long time, but now that I have it in here again, I actually prefer it over Naked Lunch, because it's just like Naked Lunch is over here, but Jest just has that little bit more shine. Very, very stunning as an inner corner highlight. And then the last light shade I have in here is another matte, and this is Yoghurt. And Yoghurt I bought as like the more cool tone version of Vanilla. So let me put that over here. So I put Yoghurt over here. It's very close to my skin tone, so you probably can't see that. But Yoghurt is like the more pink tone version of Vanilla, and I ended up using that a lot more than Vanilla in the end. And then we get into lid shades, and these are all shimmery. And the first one that I have in here is Retrospeck, and I believe this is like a formula that is a little bit more glittery and a bit more sheer. So this is definitely something that I like to use as a bit of a top coat. It is again very similar to some of the other shades I've already shown you, but it just, oh, I'm not doing this the right way. So it just has a lot of shine. It's like a white gold almost. It's very, very stunning. And then another one that is very similar to Retrospeck is Honeylust. Now this was a shade that I was after for a very long time, but I heard really, really bad reviews of this shade online, that it wasn't that great. But then they changed the formula of these, and there we have Honeylust. And it's like Arena, but then a little bit darker and a little bit more shiny. So that's why I really like that. It's definitely more an amped up version of Arena. So when I started to become a little bit more daring with my makeup, this was actually perfect. And then we get into some of my favorites. This is Patina, and I'm not sure if you can see that, but this has quite a big dent in it, because this I've used so many times. And this is a really nice sort of like, well, a taupe, you could call this, but it's very light and very wearable. So there we have Patina. It has almost like a greenish hue to it, which I really like. Then we have Woodwinked. This is one of those perfect one shadow and you're done sort of shades. It's one that's very, very easy to use. It looks a lot more bronzy than it actually looks on the eyes. It is like a gold, but it has a very brown base to it. So when you apply this all over the lid, then it looks darker depending on where you put it. And that is really, really stunning. And then we have Satin Taupe, which is another taupe, but this is a little bit darker than Patina. It packs a little bit more of a punch. So there you have Patina, and again, that's one of my most used shades. Like these three, most used by far. And then we have Amber Lights, and this is like a bronzy gold. This is not one that, like, this is how I discovered that I don't really like these warm tones, because it's just not really my cup of tea. Let me put you here. It's like a very warm tone gold, but it has really great pigmentation, and it's one of my oldest shades actually, but that's really stunning. This right here is Mulch, and this was what I was using a lot together with Patina and Woodwinked, like these three shades, and then this in the outer V. I used to put shimmer in the outer V. I still do that sometimes, and this is like a nice like medium brown, you could say. Let me put that over here. That's a really nice medium brown. Like these two shades together work really well too. Now we get into some mattes, because this is definitely an area in which I expanded my matte collection over the years. I used to be all about that shimmer life. Like I would only be wearing shimmer. So I definitely only got into mattes a little bit later on. This right here is Malt, and this is a really nice sort of like beige shade. Really good for blending. There we have Malt. Again, this is one of those shades that won't really show up. I think it has like a bit of a pinky undertone. This works really well with my complexion, so I'm very happy with that. This is Wedge, which is like Malt, but then a little bit darker, has a bit more brown to it. And this is perfect as like a transition shade, but it also works as a brow powder for some people. I know quite a few people who use this as brow powder. So there you have Wedge. This shade right here is Soft Brown, and Soft Brown took me ages to get. Everybody was raving about this at some point as like the best transition shade. It's more of like a warm tone brown compared to Wedge. Like, do you see that Wedge is a bit more cooler tone? So I prefer that personally, but this is a really nice soft crease shade, I do have to say. If you want to go for something a little cooler but darker, then Corduroy is really, really nice. This is what I bought before I got my hands on Soft Brown. And this, like, if you want to go for an all matte brown look, then like Corduroy in your outer V, Wedge in your crease, and then Malt all over the lid is actually really, really nice, I do have to say. If you're more into like reddish browns, then Swiss Chocolate is really nice. This has a bit more of a red undertone, which works really well with some of the warm tones I have in this palette. So there you have, there you have Swiss Chocolate. And then I also really liked having some cool tones in here. So this is Blackberry. And this is like a really nice, like gray toned plum. And this I put in the crease together with Arena all over the lid. I'm not kidding. I would pair that with Arena. And this has always been one that you need to build up quite a bit. But once you do, it's definitely worth it. It's a bit more, like you see that all of these shades, like all of these like mattes are all in like the same vein, but like different undertones and depths. So that's why I feel this worked really well. And then I felt later on as I was making this palette that it wasn't dark enough for my current taste. So that's when I bought Embark, which is a much deeper like plummy brown shade than Blackberry is. So this is definitely a lot darker. And it has a lot better pigmentation too. Look at that. That's a stunning brown. And then we get into like colorful shimmers, you could say. I think most of these are shimmers. One of my OG shades is Shale, and this is one that nobody ever talks about. This is like a grayish purpley shade, and this was my other lid shade when I only had like Arena, Blackberry, Shale, and Vanilla. That was like my jam, and Shale is really nice either on the lower lash line, but it also works really, really well if you, let me put this here. So there we have Shale. This works really well all over the lid as well. So this is a very versatile shade, and it's a cool tone that just works really, really well on my complexion. Now, I already mentioned that later on I definitely started looking more into darker shades. This is Beauty Marked, and it's one of the darkest shades by MAC that I have. This is like a very deep plum, but then it has a couple of like, well, not glitters, like purpley glitters. This is like a black and purple. It's really interesting. I would only wear something like this on the lower lash line or as liner. And then this has been one of my favorite shades. Like after buying Blackberry and those kind of shades, I bought Sketch very early on. The Sketch is a really nice plummy shade, and it worked really well with Shale and Blackberry, I found. So, and this was also a bit darker. This is becoming a little bit dry, I do have to say. So this does need some building up. And that was the thing with some of these MAC shades. And I think that that's why so many people fell out of love with MAC shadows, that you need to build them up. And it's not like wham bam pigment. But I personally love that. You know that about me. I don't mind having to build up shadow. Another OG that a lot of people love, this is Cranberry. Pretty warm toned. So not something I wore a lot. But yeah, it's a really good shade, and it has great pigmentation still till this day. It has a bit of a brown undertone, which is why I feel it still works for me. And then we have Star Violet, and I always sort of mix up Stars and Rockets and Star Violet, but this is a little bit more plum. Like a lot of these colors are very muted, I do have to say. And this again has a very big dip, because once I sort of really had all of these like mid-tones, this instantly became one of my favorite lid shades. It pairs really well with some of these lighter ones here, works really well with some of the crease shades I already had. Star Violet is a good one. And then I also have Coppering, which is like a very red shade. That's Coppering right there. This is like a true copper, and this is why I don't own many other copper shades, because I already have this, so I don't need anything else. And then I have Antiqued, and this goes really well with Coppering. This is a darker, like, brown, but it has a very red undertone. So again, very warm toned, but yeah, I used to be all about that life, but not something I wear a lot anymore right now. But as you can see, like cranberry, like these shades just go together really well. Last four, I'm just gonna go and start with this lightest one, I guess. So these are a bit like, some of these shades aren't necessarily things I would wear anymore, but I do have Paradisco, and this is a coral shade, like a corally pink with like a bit of gold running through it almost. And this is really, really stunning. And I remember that I was all about that life. Look at that. It's really nice. It's soft, but it did go very well with some of those other shades. And then we have Expensive Pink. This was, oh my, this was a whole hype as well. This has a very big dent too. When I stick my finger in there, you can see it a little bit too. This I wore so much, and I used to use this as like a crease outer V shade. Like that's how dark I would only be willing to go. But this is still a really stunning shade. I would now probably put it all over my lid. Either one of these, or maybe this even as an inner corner. My makeup tastes have definitely changed, but I still like all of these shades, really. Then I have some greens in here as well. I have Green Smoke. Really, really nice. And this is why I need to put this next to Sumptuous Olive to see how those two compare, because I feel they might be very similar. Green Smoke is one that always sort of had a bit of an issue with pigmentation, but when you build it up, it was like a really nice sort of hazy green smoky eye. So I really like that. And then I would pair it a lot with Humid, and that is the last shade that is in here. And Humid is a really nice, like, satin green shade. It's really, really stunning. It's like a bit brighter, but these two shades together make for like a nice sort of like green, almost smoky eye. So there you have it, all of my MAC shades. This is what I have in my MAC palette and what I'm hoping to add. If you have any suggestions of shade that I can add to update it and bring it more into like 2019, then please let me know, because these is definitely some of my OG shades. These are all the mattes, some light shimmers, mid-tone shimmers, and then we have some darker shades and some fun shades here as well. So thank you very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more by me, or just stay tuned for the next video, because I upload 3 times a week. I have a lot more content about eyeshadow palettes coming your way. So stay tuned. See you in my next video. Bye!